This is an extremely difficult pair of questions. Very, very hard. Um, I'll just try to get you in my state of mind. I don't know. This is something I could have easily gotten wrong if I had taken this on a real test. Um, Maybe 50-50. So let's see. This is how I would have thought about it. We always need to follow the QLC method. I see this. I'm going to need to be organized, especially because I know that this passage is difficult to understand. So I need to make sure I'm staying organized as best I can. So read the question. What's the first part? In the passage, Warren characterizes Americans of the post-revolutionary period as. Okay, well, they tell us in the blurb the whole passage is about Americans in the post-revolutionary period. So basically, like, how does he characterize them? So let's go now to the lines, QLC. So we go to the lines and we say, okay, what do they say in these lines? Line reference A, 19 to 24, is here. I hate when it starts in the middle of a sentence. Or whether such, if established, would be administered agreeable to laws founded on the beautiful theory of republicanism, depictured in the closets of philosophers and idolized in the imagination of most of the inhabitants of America. I have no idea what that says. The fact is, too, why does it start in a place where, like, clearly they've referred to something else? So I would even go back. Normally for these evidence pairs, I do not read extra stuff, but if I clearly have a reference to something that's coming before, I am going to read it. I need to understand the reference. So let's see. From the versatility of human affairs and the encroaching spirit of man, it was yet uncertain when and how the states would be tranquilized and the Union consolidated under wise, energetic, and free modes of government. Okay, something is uncertain. Or whether such, if established, would be administered agreeable to laws founded on the beautiful theory of republicanism, depictured in the closets of philosophers and idolized in the imagination of most of the inhabitants of America. Okay, so all I'm getting out of this is that the Americans idolized republicanism and that people are uncertain what was going to happen. But I don't know. I have no idea what this means. Idolized republicanism. It's my little note to myself. Let's look at 25 to 28. That is here. It is indeed true that from a general attention to early education, the people of the United States were better informed in many branches of literature than the common classes of men in most other countries. Okay. That part I understood. Well informed. So let's put that. Informed. 30 to 35. It's right after that. Here. They were ignorant of the intrigues of courts, and though convinced of the necessity of government, did not fully understand its nature or origin. They had generally supposed there was little to do but to shake off the yoke of foreign domination and annihilate the name of king. So, ignorant, did not fully understand. That's the opposite of what they just said, but okay, fine, I get it. They're ignorant. 62 to 69. Okay. Again, they're starting in the middle of a sentence. It may be acquired today in all triumph of independent feelings, but okay, I'm going to stop right there. I don't know what it is. I need to know what this is. And if I look, this is one long sentence here. Here we go. I'll start here. Of these, few had yet formed any adequate ideas, and fewer indeed were sensible, that though the name of liberty delights the ear and tickles the fond pride of man, it is a jewel much oftener the plaything of his imagination than a possession of real stability. So liberty is a plaything. Okay. It may be acquired, liberty may be acquired today in all triumph of independent feelings, but perhaps tomorrow the world may be convinced that mankind know not how to make a proper use of the prize, generally bartered in a short time, as a useless bauble to the first officious master that will take the burden from the mind by laying another on the shoulders of tenfold weight. Wow. Wow. Okay, so I actually understand D because a lot of what came before it. So it may be acquired today in all triumph. So liberty is acquired in triumph, but tomorrow it may be convinced that they cannot make proper use, and it's a useless thing. So liberty, I don't even know. Good, then useless. I really don't know. I'm just trying to understand it as best I can. Now, one good thing about this is, as crazy as the line references are, the answer choices number 37 are simple. They're short. So we need to know what the vocab in these words, vocab in these choices means. However, we very easily know what to focus on. So, where can we even start here? Let's start with things that jump out to me as maybe being a good match. So D, learned and cultured. That clearly matches with choice B. Or clearly relates to choice B. Learned and cultured. It said that they were informed, right? Let's go back to that line reference. They are better informed in many branches of literature than the common classes of men in most countries. So, okay, they're better informed. Does that make them learned? Does that make them cultured? It's a stretch, right? To say that they know more books is not necessarily to jump all the way to them being learned and cultured. It seems like a bit of a reach. So I don't really know here. It's not obvious to me. It's a similar connotation, but when I dive a little deeper into what those words in choice D mean, I don't really have evidence of that. It's too strong. So I don't know. It doesn't jump out as obvious. Aimless and neglected, well, maybe that in some way matches with line reference C, but there I have a much clearer sense that no, if they match in connotation, they do not match beyond that, right? They said they were ignorant of things, but that's very different from saying they're aimless and neglected. I don't even know what it would mean for the Americans to be neglected. That doesn't make sense. So I think that that's wrong. And with that in mind, I don't know, naive and idealistic, is ignorant the same as naive? Maybe. Let's go back to line reference C. They were ignorant of the intrigues of courts, and though convinced of the necessity of government, did not fully understand its nature or origin. They had generally supposed there was little to do but to shake off the yoke of foreign domination. Okay, ignorant and naive seem to match. Yeah. And then, what was the other word? Idealistic. Well, convinced of the necessity of government, they had generally supposed there was little to do but shake off the yoke of foreign domination and annihilate the king. Yeah, that's a better fit. It's certainly still a little negative, right? Naive is not a thing you want to be called. Idealistic is a little, I don't know. It could go either way, depending on the context. But I don't know. Maybe this matches with line reference C as well. Imaginative and resourceful. Yeah, that one's wrong. I don't have anything that matches with that. I guess the thing here is, like, D also has elements of things being, line reference D also has elements of things being, like, idealistic maybe, or naive. Like, I kind of see that, because they're saying, like, okay, they are very happy to be free and have liberty, but then, okay, maybe someone else comes along and they squander that and they, get rid of liberty because someone convinces them to. But notice how, like, I don't know, I feel like I'm telling a much longer story to make that choice fit. And so for that reason, it was a little easier for me to tell the story about line reference C and say, okay, are they naive? Yes. Ignorant of the intrigues of courts? They're naive. They don't know how government works, is basically what they're saying. Are they idealistic? Yeah. It's saying that they thought maybe if we just got rid of the king, everything would be good. And that's idealistic. Obviously, government is more complicated than that. That would be my final answer. And that is the answer. But wow, that's a hard way to get there. I would say the best advice I can give for this question is to narrow your focus, in addition to just staying organized and using the QLC method. As we go through, the reason I was able to kind of come up with this was I was staying focused on the words in the answer choices that are short, right? And so I do know what those words mean, and I have a really good sense of what it means to be naive or neglected or resourceful. Like that's what gives me a little bit of an advantage is I know those words very well. But I didn't know the words in the lines very well at all. And so in order to understand the words in the lines, I really needed those words in the choices to go back in and kind of make sense of what I was reading. And so I know what naive means, and naive and ignorant are a really good match for each other. It basically means that, you don't know something. Idealistic was harder, but because I had a clear sense of what that word meant in my mind, when I went back to line reference C, I was able to kind of be like, okay, I could see how this is an example of idealism. And I did make it fit, but it kind of fit naturally as well. Whereas D, choice D and line reference B, the learned and cultured thing, all we really get is that they're better informed in literature. That's a bigger leap to go from that to learned, right? I mean, if you're learned, you know everything, you know lots of different things. This is just saying one thing that they know better. And then it actually kind of undermines that, right? And then line reference C, it says they're ignorant. So that also helped me get rid of choice line reference B there, is it's very quickly undermined. So if they're learned, then they shouldn't be ignorant. Whereas they can be ignorant of certain things, and that's where naivete comes in. That's where idealism comes in. It's a little bit more open, I guess, to other possibilities. This is a really, really hard question. I wouldn't worry too much about this. There's a very good chance that in the course of the test, if I didn't have 10 minutes to spend on a question, I would have just picked, maybe I would have ended up with choices D and B here. Or even like I could see myself picking A and D. It's really tricky. I could have easily gotten this wrong in the moment, or at least picked wrong answers temporarily, and then you can always come back. You got to know when to quit, so that way you can make sure you get to the end of the section. There's plenty easy points at the end, so don't get bogged down in something like this.